Most arguably see music as a form of entertainment, similar to that of movies and television. Most people will watch movies and television, or in this case, listen to music to escape or have a break from their daily pressures and struggles. And like movies and television, music in a way can be a competitive sport. But what do I mean by this? Well, what I mean is that mainstream media like films, television, and music have their own award shows. For films, it's the Oscars, and for music, well, it's the Grammys. Now you're probably wondering, what are award shows? Well, to put award shows in simpler terms, think of award shows as kind of being like your high school graduation and the Olympics rolled into one for a form of media. In the Olympics, you've got many competitive athletes going against each other and opposing teams representing a certain part of the world throughout a variety of categories for the top prize in their category. You've got the track category, the swimming category, and other athletic categories. But in this case, you've got many music artists representing their record labels and competing against each other for the top prize in their profession, a Grammy. Instead of showcasing athletic abilities, they showcase their abilities through their songs, albums that get nominated throughout that year. The Grammys are also kind of like the previously mentioned high school graduation, where you and your peers sit together as the presenter calls your name up to the stage for you to receive your diploma. But in this case, it's a Grammy, and you're only called to the stage if you win. So now, as you can see, that's what award shows essentially are. And like the Olympics, you've got the top prize for winners. In the case of the Grammys, the top prize is arguably Album of the Year. But now you're probably wondering, how are the winners decided and who decides these winners and determines them? To answer this, the way that the winners get picked is through the Recording Academy, a voting body made up of industry professionals who come together annually to vote in various categories. To quote the standards of the Recording Academy, the award for Album of the Year is given to the album that most honors artistic achievement, has technical proficiency, and overall excellence in the recording industry, without regard to album sales or chart position. For previous decades, the number of albums that were nominated was 5, but in recent years they've changed the amount to about 8 to 10 due to the public perception regarding the lack of diversity in the award show. And even though they've done this to fight this criticism, they've received backlash from people in the music community for their Album of the Year nominees alone. People in the community, mostly made up of early adults, believe that the best albums are not being represented nor nominated at this award show, and that they don't actually represent the best in music that year, annually. So to sum all of this up, people don't respect this award show, whether it be for their winners or their nominations. But looking at this situation as a whole, it caught my interest. One of the major things that caught my overall interest is that I only hear journalists and people who follow music saying this stuff and criticizing these issues in the Recording Academy. And after doing a bit of research, I found out via Zippia.com that through their study, that a majority of the people who talk about music on a professional level are around the age of 40 and up. Seeing this, my curiosity got the best of me, and I wondered what age group listens to the most music. From this, I did more research to determine what group listens to the most music, and found a 2018 study from biz.org that determined that the age group that listens to the most amount of music are between 16 and 24 years old. And since I fit into that age group, I kind of thought, oh, that's interesting. So I came up with an idea. What do my fellow groups who fit in the same age group as me think of these albums, and which one would they pick as their album of the year based off the albums nominated for each year? So then I started. My first thought was, let's do a survey. From this, I started to create a survey via Google Forms. For the survey, I first wanted to narrow down the questions to about 10 because there's been 67 years of the Grammys and their Album of the Year winners, and I know based on what I see from my fellow peers, my age group doesn't really like surveys. So I shortened the questions down to 10 because who wants to take a 67 question survey? So I ultimately decided to use albums nominated for the 2016 Grammys to the recent 2025 award show for a 10 question survey to give to my peers, each question being a respective year and the freedom to choose one of the nominees from that year. The survey itself a multiple choice question where my fellow peers are free to choose what album they thought was the best one out of the nominees for their respective years. On top of the survey, right before the questions, I ended up writing all the following questions are years starting from 2015 to 2024. based on what the Recording Academy nominated for the Album of the Year for each respective year. Answer all 10 questions based on what you think was the best album out of all the ones that are choices in the questions. If you haven't listened to some of these albums, just click none. Along with this, I had to advise people taking this survey to not pick them because that's their favorite artist or something, but to just pick them because that's the one they think is the best, the most like quality, the most rewarding out of all of them. Additionally, I added the choice to click none because if they haven't listened to some of the albums, why should they pick one, right? So I ended up surveying about 60 people, 16 to 18 years old, and I asked them what they felt was the album of the year. Starting off with the 2016 nominees, the results from my survey showed that most of my fellow peers voted on Kendrick Lamar's album, with 41.7% of the votes going to it, whereas the real-life album of the year winner, Taylor Swift's 1989, came in at second with 21.7% of the votes. Now, skipping to the next year, out of all the albums nominated for the 2017 award, Drake's Views was the most voted on with about 31.7% of the votes, the same amount of people who voted on none, while the winning album in real life, Adele's 25, came in at 16.7% of the votes. For the albums nominated for 2018, the award show, for the 2018 award show, the most voted on album out of all of them was 24 Karat Magic by Bruno Mars, which is actually the real life winner of the album of the year. For the 2019 award show, the nominees were expanded to 7. This year, from the nominated album, Drake's Scorpion was the most voted on with about 20% of the votes, while the album that won in real life got 10% of the votes, which was Casey Musgrave's Golden Hour. But one thing that must be considered is the fact that 27.7% of the viewers chose none as their option, which means that a majority of the voters would rather not choose any of these albums. And the same thing happened with the following years on the survey. The 2020 award show showed a majority of 31.7% of the voters picking none, and the 2021 award show, the number went up to 41.7%. For the 2020 award show, out of the albums that got nominated, the most picked one was Thank You Next by Ariana Grande, where the real life album of the year winner, When We Fall Asleep, came in at second with 20%, and the one that was the most voted on came in with 23.3% with all the votes. Out of the nominees for the 2021 award show, the most voted album was Chilombo by Jhené Aiko, which won with about 15% of the votes, where the real-life winner, Folklore by Taylor Swift, got only 10% of the votes out of the nominees. And out of the nominees for the 2022 award show, the nominees, Donda by Kanye West was the most picked with about 30% of the votes. And this time things were interesting because at least all of the other albums got nominated, except for the one that ended up winning, which was We Are by Jon Batiste. And the percentage of people who chose none shrunk down to 20%, which is good. Following this year, out of the nominees for 2023, Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers was the most voted on with 28.3% of the votes, where the real-life winner, Harry's House by Harry Styles, got only 1.7% of the votes. And the percentage of people who picked none went up to 26.7%. Following this, for the 2024 award show, the percentage would change with about a majority of 46.7% of the viewers picked none, which is the highest out of all the other ones in the survey. And you know, it's pretty crazy. But the most voted on album out of that whole bunch was SZA's SOS, right, which had came in with about 26.7% of the votes, where the real life winner, Midnights by Taylor Swift, only got about 3.3% of the votes. So that's pretty interesting, you know. For this last one, the 2025 award show, the most picked album out of all the nominees was Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish, with about 22.4% of the votes, where the real life winner, Cowboy Carter by Beyonce, got about 6.9% of the votes. but still, a majority of my peers voted none. So what does this data suggest? From the obvious looks of it, it shows that the youth wouldn't vote for a majority of these nominees. And when I asked around to my fellow peers why they picked none, it was either because they didn't know the album or because they didn't like the albums chosen. So as a whole, I just think the Recording Academy, need to get this generation into consideration, considering, like I said previously, that this generation consumes the most amount of media. And since this is an award show celebrating that media, it should take the appeal from this generation and apply it to their award show. This is Juan Martinez, and this is my English 1302 passion project. See you.